Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a truly counterintuitive idea. Now, think about this. Logically, if you make something hyper-efficient, you'd think we'd end up needing less of it, right? I mean, that just makes sense. But what if I told you that making a resource wildly more efficient actually explodes our total consumption of it? It's a fascinating paradox that has literally defined human industry for over a century, and right now, as we speak, it is completely rewriting the future of human intelligence and work. So, let's jump right into it.
This right here is the core anxiety of our time, isn't it? As artificial intelligence becomes just astonishingly capable, there's this looming fear that white-collar labor is simply going to vanish overnight. Because if a machine can write code or draft a complex legal brief or analyze massive data sets in seconds, surely we won't need humans for those tasks anymore. Well, to answer this deeply modern question, we actually need to do something a little unexpected. We're going to take a sudden pivot and travel back in time, over 160 years, right into the gritty heart of the 19th century Industrial Revolution.
All right, let's set the scene. Picture the soot-covered, steam-powered world of Britain back in 1865. An economist named William Stanley Jevons was observing the coal industry. Engineers had just rolled out these vastly superior, highly efficient steam engines. Naturally, everyone at the time assumed that because these new engines burned fuel so efficiently, the country's total coal consumption was going to drop. But Jevons noticed the exact opposite happening. Because the engines were so efficient, coal-powered production actually became radically cheaper. Suddenly, countless new industries could actually afford to use steam power. They expanded their operations, and total coal consumption absolutely skyrocketed. Making the resource more efficient didn't save it at all. It unleashed massive, unprecedented demand.
Now, there is a direct structural parallel we can draw between the Victorian era and today. It's a shift from the gritty reality of rusty steam engines straight into the glowing, high-tech world of modern AI. Back in 1865, the resource was physical. It was coal. Its growth was ultimately constrained by absolute material availability because, well, you can only dig so much out of the ground. But fast forward to 2026, the resource we're dealing with isn't rusty gears and physical fuel anymore. It's data. It's cognitive capital. We are dealing with the infinite scalability of human judgment. We're making intelligence incredibly cheap, and just like coal in 1865, we are about to see what happens when you unleash that kind of extreme efficiency.
Economists actually have a name for this mechanism. They call it the rebound effect. When the cost per unit of intelligence falls drastically, three things happen essentially all at once. First, existing companies just use way more of it because it's so much cheaper. Second, new buyers, people who previously couldn't afford a whole team of analysts or developers, suddenly enter the market. And third, entirely new use cases emerge that simply weren't economically viable at the old, higher price point. So lowering the cost of intelligence doesn't mean we do the same amount of work with fewer people. Not at all. It means we do vastly, vastly more work.
To put that into perspective, let's look at the sheer scale of this shift using some hard enterprise telemetry from 2026. We are tracking how fast the cost per task is plummeting, and honestly, the numbers are wild. A routine PR code review that used to cost $48 in senior engineer time now is just 72 cents using an AI agent. That is a 66 times reduction. A Tier 1 customer ticket drops from over $4 to just 46 cents. And drafting a long-form article, that plummets from a whopping $640 of human labor to just $4.10 in compute costs. We are talking about a 156 times cost reduction here.
And because of these staggering efficiencies, we are seeing a truly massive shift in worker productivity. Across deployments that have rigorous tracking in place, knowledge workers using production AI agents are actually recovering a median of 6.4 hours every single week. Think of these AI systems as a sort of daily forklift for cognitive heavy lifting. They are systematically offloading those routine, boilerplate tasks so human labor can be deployed elsewhere.
So you might be wondering, where does all that saved human labor actually go? Well, it goes toward unlocking latent demand. This is that rebound effect we talked about, happening right in front of us. Every organization out there has this massive backlog of tasks they always wish they could do, but they just couldn't justify the cost. Things like translating marketing assets into minor languages, running deep, customized market research for super niche segments, or maintaining incredibly detailed audit trails for routine decisions. AI makes executing these tasks cheap, but they still absolutely require human oversight, direction, and interpretation.
Because unlike a physical pile of coal, humanity's appetite for intelligence is elastic, and it is essentially infinite. Think about it. Every company on Earth wants to make better decisions. They want to personalize more interactions and generate deeper insights. Because there's no natural ceiling to this cognitive economy, Collapsing the cost of intelligence doesn't end the game. It simply opens the floodgates to an unlimited demand for problem solving.
So here's the absolutely crucial point to take away from this. As AI handles all that routine execution, human value isn't disappearing at all, it's concentrating. Professionals are shifting away from pure production, like writing boilerplate code or drafting basic emails, to higher-order direction and judgment. The real premium now is on orchestrating complex pipelines of multiple AI agents, rigorously auditing those AI outputs for really subtle errors, and navigating all the strategic relational dynamics that algorithms simply cannot handle.
Now, if you're still a bit worried about AI destroying jobs, let me hit you with a major macroeconomic bombshell from the World Economic Forum. Their projections suggest that while AI is slated to displace roughly 92 million routine roles, it is projected to create 170 million entirely new ones. Globally, that is a net gain of 78 million jobs.
And the market? Well, the market is aggressively rewarding the humans who actually know how to wield these tools. The data shows a massive 56% wage premium for workers with AI competency. When you combine that 1865 Jevons Paradox with our modern cognitive economy, you realize human workers aren't becoming obsolete. By acting as the strategic directors of these highly efficient agents, humans are actually becoming far more valuable.
So as we trace this timeline, you can see how applying those 1865 coal economics to 2026 intelligence perfectly explains why making a resource more efficient just supercharges its total consumption. Cheaper AI inference unlocks all that latent demand. Productivity jumps. But look at what's looming on the horizon. Because our cognitive demand is effectively infinite, it is now crashing into a very finite, very physical reality.
We are slamming headfirst into what engineers call the physics wall. The insatiable Jevons demand for AI compute is putting an unprecedented strain on our physical infrastructure. Back in 2026, data centers consumed about 4% of U.S. electricity. By 2028, that is projected to skyrocket to 12%. This kind of exponential scaling is putting massive, honestly unsustainable pressure on our terrestrial power grids and our local water supplies.
To keep from literally boiling our municipal watersheds, the tech industry is being forced into these wild, sci-fi-sounding solutions just to manage the extreme thermodynamics of this intelligence boom. We are seeing major migrations to off-grid compute. For example, Microsoft's Project Natick is sinking data centers into subsea pods to use the ocean as a giant heat exchanger. Other companies are building facilities up in the Arctic to leverage free cooling from the freezing ambient air. And, incredibly, engineers are now designing orbital data centers in space. Yes, literally in space. But, even space has its limits. It introduces this fascinating bottleneck known as the radiator real estate problem. See, without air or water to carry heat away, space data centers have to radiate heat purely as infrared light. And because of a physics principle known as the Stefan-Boltzmann law, dissipating just 1 megawatt of heat in a vacuum requires 1,200 square meters of radiators. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the size of 4 tennis courts. The radiators end up weighing 10 times more than the computers themselves. It just proves that the ultimate limit to our cognitive economy isn't algorithmic, it's strictly thermodynamic.
And that really brings us full circle. The Jevons Paradox teaches us that making AI incredibly cheap won't diminish our appetite for it. It's going to multiply it exponentially. We've transitioned from burning physical coal in the 1800s to burning through off-grid compute power in our oceans and up in orbit today. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If our demand for this new cognitive capital is truly infinite, but the physical limits of our planet and even our orbit are very much real, how long until the cognitive economy burns through its own supply of coal? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you an entirely new lens on our AI future. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.